True, but also, how much do you need a object that doesn't move in an average adventuring day? What problems that an average adventurer faces does this solve? It can solve weird, wild things. It can be that cool tool you bust out to go, oh my god, I can't believe this is perfect in this scenario. I'm going to make an immovable object here, and it's going to solve all of our problems. I think that's probably a 1 in 100 adventure. I think around 1 in 4 or 5 adventures will have a really cool use for it, and the rest of adventures, it'll bar a door.
Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Immovable Object.
Came with the mic. It's stuck in place.
All right.
I love this thing. If any spell got to migrate from Explorer's Guide to Wildemount into like canon 5e, I'd want it to be this. So it's a second level transmutation spell, again from Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. Cast times an action, range is touch. Components for osmotic material, requires gold dust worth at least 25 gold, which the spell consumes. So you do have to pay for it every time you use it. Duration's an hour, so it doesn't last forever. You touch an object that weighs no more than 10 pounds and cause it to become magically fixed in place. You and the creatures you designate when you cast the spell can move the object normally. You can also set a password that when spoken within 5 feet of the object suppresses the spell for a minute. The object is fixed in the air. It can hold up to if the object is fixed in the air, it can hold up to 4,000 pounds of weight. More weight causes the object to fall. Otherwise, creature can use an action to make a strength check against your spell save DC. On a success, the creature can move the object up to 10 feet. At higher levels, if the spell is cast in your 4th or 5th level slot, the DC of the object increases by 5, and it can carry up to 8,000 pounds of weight, and the duration increases to 24 hours. If you cast a spell with a 6th level slot or higher, the DC to move the object increases by 10. It can carry up to 20,000 pounds of weight, and the effect is permanent until dispelled. This spell is so nifty.
That's something I feel is potentially worth upcasting.
I think, especially in like an out of combat or even like utility going around the world circumstance, permanence in this kind of thing is useful. It is helpful to know that you can come back and something will still be there. You can like stash something a quarter of a mile in the air just on a stick and know that stick will be there in however long you come back for, right? That's kind of novel, right?
Sure.
The neat thing about this is a touch range spell. And we talked about it recently when we talked about the best spells for familiars to cast, because this is a rare example of a spell that is uniquely, substantially better when your familiar delivers the touch, because like it can go to a spot in the air with a fly speed using like a raven or an imp or whatever, touch the object in the air and fix it in place. So you can drag ropes or whatever up high distances and use this as a 3-dimensional or a real tool for navigating 3D space, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? Initial out-the-gate impressions.
No, it's always fun. I mean, the immovable rod has been around like forever in editions of old. Yeah, this just takes that and says, all right, well, you can make this a spell to do that with anything. And that's, yeah, it's fun to think of like different uses, but also different types of objects you'd want to use. I'm thinking, all right, you can block a door with, a stick or something, a rod. But somebody can either they can just break the door and go under the rod. But if you did the same thing with just a large piece of paper, that the door is blocked.
So there are some notable elements of this that I think are worth talking about. One element of it is the object is not indestructible. It just can't be moved.
Yeah, okay.
So with paper, they can poke holes in it and stuff, like tear at it and try and destroy it. I believe that will work as far as like dismantling it, I think. Now, granted, if part of destroying it is moving it, they'll make the strength or the save against your strength check to move it 10 feet. But like if they pass that save and damage it, now it's open for everyone to go through. That's a reason to consider it. I also think this interpretation is not going to be particularly consistent table to table, and your DM is going to have a lot of say as to how exactly this works. But I do think like you should expect, barring a door isn't going to be foolproof, but it will stall a decent amount of time, and you can do it with a snap of your fingers, right?
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, technically to poke holes in the paper, you need to move part of that paper.
And if you use it with a 6th level slot, the DC is like 30. So that could just be no one moves through this anymore. This is just a wall now. Not even a particularly easily destructible wall. I do like that you're going to get some weird objects that you're going to want to try and find because you want large, light objects, like you pointed out with the sheet of paper, right?
Right.
This is going to encourage you to find like driftwood or like super light giant inflatable balls that you just be like, that's there now forever. Just giant yoga ball blocking the way. That's kind of cute, right?
Yeah, but there's got to be more uses for this than just blocking the way.
Oh, sure.
In fact, I don't want to give any spoilers, but I had a pretty good use in one of my books.
Mm-hmm. I think blocking the way looks different in a bunch of contexts too, right? Like this can stop fall, this can, or prevent something from falling a large distance, like jam this in an elevator or something, right? A chute. You can put this as again, with the familiar, or even just like if you have someone that is very good at climbing, this can be that person gets to the high space, puts the object in place, throws a rope down if it's all sheer surfaces or whatever, and now people can navigate up pretty easily. That's another easy way to mess around with this thing. You can use this to restrain creatures and objects, right? Like nothing, it's gonna, as long as it isn't amazingly strong, tying a rope to this around a creature, it might break the rope first, so maybe that's not a great example, but like you could do a decent amount of utility stuff in the world by having on your sheet. If I'm playing a wizard, I really want to find a way to play this, put this on my sheet, just because I'm curious to see how much I can do with it, how cool I can like really make this thing work.
I think I mentioned this in when we were talking about was it Wall of Force, but yeah, if you're being chased by pirates, you jump in the water behind your boat, cast this on a harpoon underwater or something, get back on your boat, and when they're chasing you, you put a hole in their hull.
It does depend if their ship weighs more than 2 tons. Right? Because the 4,000-pound limit is what the first level or second level version has. So you do want to make sure that you're dealing with a relatively small boat.
Now,
but yeah,
you're putting this much like pressure on one point in the boat. I think it's going to breach the hull before that much force gets pushed into it.
I think some DMs would agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think the moment you start trying to apply physics to something called a movable object, nope, that just all goes right out the window. And I think rules is written. It does say hold up to 4,000 pounds of weight, and more object causing it to fall basically dismisses the effect. So the moment that more than 4,000 pounds of pressure is put on this thing, it's gone. And that happens instantly. I would say. I don't know. I'm not a physicist. I didn't take physics in college. So
yeah,
comment below, how would that work from a physics perspective, or is that a dumb question to ask in the first place? We're talking about something called a movable object.
See, I'm thinking like if I, throw a bullet in the air and like run into it, I'm not gonna stop it. But if the bullet is fixed in the air and I run into it as fast as I can, I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah, I mean the bullet really has nothing to do with it. Just like that's the nature of the object. I don't know. I think like
anyway, this is a ridiculous argument to have.
True, and I think this is a very D&D argument to have, right?
Well, yeah, all right, that's true. But this is whatever we decide, the DM is going to decide at each individual table.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, absolutely. I love
this. It is ripe for comments down in the comment section. Let us know.
True. I do think they picked good weight cutoffs, right? Like 4,000 is like small vessel, 8,000 is large vessel, and 20,000 is like most any enormous object this will stop. I think that is
beyond what I could imagine. I don't know what things weigh.
Yeah, wait. Oh, well, yeah. I'm trying to think in like terms of cars, and like a little Toyota Corolla I have, I think it's a little under it's like half a ton or something like that. So then you get a little bit larger of a car, like a Tri, that starts to be a ton, and then huge Mack trucks are like the 4 tons. And then you get to the things that are way, way bigger than huge Mack trucks, and I have no idea where we're at anymore. Now I don't know how much a Mack truck weighs, so hey, I could be wildly off on that. Comments, let me know down below how much does a truck weigh. But as far as like cool spells go, upcasting is super interesting. Normally I write that off, but you don't have to here. The duration changes are pretty unique. The weight changes are pretty unique. If you play with the spell, also I'd love to hear from you. It's from a weird book, so I imagine some people haven't, but I think there's a super ton amount of fun to have with this thing. It's still probably like a niche utility tool that doesn't get higher than a 3. I don't think this is changing the game on a fundamental level. I think the ceiling on this is pretty low as far as like things it can do and ways to play around it. But it is
Ooh.
definitely a cool, unique element of this game.
I disagree. I think this has so much more potential than what we've discussed here today. And yeah, one of those, again, this comes up again and again. Yeah, just because we haven't thought of it doesn't mean like there's not wilder stuff out there you can do.
True, but also, how much do you need a object that doesn't move on an average adventuring day? What problems that an average adventurer faces does this solve? It can solve weird, wild things. It can be that cool tool you bust out to go, oh my god, I can't believe this is perfect in this scenario. I'm going to make an immovable object here, and it's going to solve all of our problems. I think that's probably a 1 in 100 adventure. I think around 1 in 4 or 5 adventures will have a really cool use for it, and the rest of adventures, it'll bar a door.
Well, and don't forget, you can also like do the thing where you put a gold coin on the sidewalk and laugh at people when they try and pick it up.
Yeah,
That's
I like giving peasants hope. Yeah, that's my favorite thing to do, and watching it leave their eyes as they stumble over it. That's great.
yeah, there's probably even better uses than that.
Probably.
And for that, I'm going to, justify this in the comments, people. I'm going to give this a 4.
Yeah, 3 out of 5 and 4 out of 5. Those are our ratings. What are your ratings in the comments down below? Let us know.
All right, that was Immovable Object. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for watching. Expect fun comments down below. Let us have it. Also, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.